What's going on, people? Welcome to United View. Welcome to another Transfer View, man. Happy Thursday, 20th of June. It's England Day in the Euros, our second game against Denmark. Big up to all the England fans in the chat. Big up to all the Gareth Southgate lovers in the chat. Big up to massive supporters of the team who know that we're going to win today and then win again against Slovenia and keep winning and bring football back home from the first time since 1966. Big up to all you guys who know that's what's going to happen. But before all of that, there's loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of Man United news to get into. It is going off, yeah, as we say, as the saying goes. So Jim Ratcliffe has been speaking. There's loads going on there. He's done a massive interview with Bloomberg. Had a chat with some people at Bloomberg yesterday. So they said to us there was something big coming in the morning, and he has delivered on that. So Jim just going in. So it's always interesting when he speaks because as we can clearly see from Sir Jim, like he just speaks his mind, and he's actually really refreshing. He's front of house, and he just says things as they are. So big up to that. We're going to be talking about what he said about Jean-Claude Todibo, of why we can't get him, what he thinks of the rules, Man United spending, competing with Real Madrid. Loads of quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We're going to be talking about Michael Elise as well. What's going on there with Michael Elise in terms of, are we going to meet this release clause? Are we going to be able to get him? Is he going to be high up on our target list? What is going on there with Michael Elise? There's loads of other stuff about transfers as well. It's all going off. Owen's been getting quotes. He's been organising things. Ten Hag wants Edson Alvarez as well. There's reports on that. It's just mental.
Yes, it is all just mental. And if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. That's why we're a little bit late this morning, just getting all of these quotes together and making sure that they're as right and correct as they possibly can be. Let's get straight into it, Flex. Let's get straight into it when it comes to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and this interview that he's done with Bloomberg. Friend of the channel, David Hellier, was involved in this as well. There's a lot to get into. Let's start off talking about Jean-Claude Todibo. Now, there was a story yesterday when it came to Fabrizio Romano, which we'll get to in just a second. But in this interview, as written by Francine Lacroix, how's that you say it? Lacroix?
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy, so I'm just going to go with what you think.
But I think, is that the person that you spoke to at Bloomberg?
Yes, it is. Yeah, when I spoke to David yesterday,
that's what I was asking.
But I didn't have to repeat her name.
Francine.
Francine.
So, and David Hellier, they write that UEFA has also increased its scrutiny of groups trading players among their teams if they play in the same competition, and stopped Nice selling one to Manchester United, said Ratcliffe, declining to name them. He is talking about Jean-Claude Todibo, and in the interview, he really does shoehorn this into the interview. He goes, for instance, we wanted there was discussions and about a player going from Nice to Manchester United. And I think he actually could make the transition very well. I think he's very capable to be able to do that, actually. And he said, not bad. Yeah, not bad. He said, they've said we can sell him to another Premiership club, but we can't sell to Manchester United, Ratcliffe said. But that's not fair on the player, and I don't see what that achieves. Now, as I mentioned, he doesn't name Todibo explicitly, but this is part of the story yesterday from Fabrizio Romano.
We know who it is.
Saying Jean-Claude Todibo deal for Man United is currently off and highly unlikely due to UEFA rules. Talks were advanced with all parties, keen for months, but Nice and Manchester United with the same ownership playing European competition next season means no green light. So really, and we can come back to all of those quotes there, Flex, basically, Romano probably got wind of that interview yesterday, most likely, and heard that was going to be the case. For those asking why Manchester City can get away with signing the player from Girona, it's because he doesn't actually play for Girona.
Exactly.
It's, literally the technicality of a legal loophole. He's actually contracted to, Troyes in France, who are like a third-tier French team, by the way. So there's no chance they're going to be in the Champions League next season. Get him on loan to Girona and then buy him from Troyes. That's the difference. If you're wondering why in the past RB clubs have sold to each other, this new rule about trading within competition only came in 2023. So that's why. So Manchester City, certainly, one would appear, probably saw this kind of thing coming and made sure they exercised all of those legal loopholes.
It's about being smart. It's about being smart. We can get angry and say, oh, it's not fair. Oh, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, these guys know what the rules are. We want a multi-club model. I know Sir Jim's been talking about why it's a good thing. We'll talk about that. I'm not against it. We've seen how it's worked for other clubs. And the truth of the matter is you have to be really astute in circumnavigating the rules, I'll say. You have to be on it. You have to know what you can do, what you can't do. And we were sitting there talking to Jean-Claude Todibo. I will be a bit honest. We're talking to him, sorting out terms, and he wants to come, but not one person's gone, hang on a minute, well, we can't do this. Like, they should really know that. They should really know that for me. So I'm not, it's a bit annoying, but I think we've got enough targets where we're in. I wouldn't say, oh, it's a catastrophe. They don't know what they're doing. This is a joke. It's not that level, but it's like, well, come on, guys.
Does it speak to a wider problem though in football? Because that was my thing with it. Like, it's one of those ones. It's a bit like Chelsea at the moment, selling training grounds and hotels to circumvent FFP, where you go, okay, I see you haven't broken a rule here, but we know that you are bending this to the most that you possibly can. And that's what City has.
That's what you got to do.
And I think it probably does say a lot about, maybe the charges that are coming up, that maybe that's why they're so confident that they're going to beat some of those charges, because they're like, maybe what we've done isn't morally right, but we know that we, by the letter of the law, because if they've got the foresight, this is what I was thinking yesterday, if they've got the foresight to go, right, let's get this player, if we send them to Girona, they could end up in the Champions League in a couple of seasons. And then it's a bit difficult about buying him from that. Maybe we don't do that. What if we just send him to the club in France that's definitely not going to be in the Champions League next season? Let's do that. And it does imply an element of premeditation, doesn't it? And 100%. And that probably says more about the wider rules in football. Like, I spoke about this yesterday on the Match View when I was doing one of the Euros games, that as much as Sir Jim talks about the multi-club model that he wants to adopt, I think the probably reason he only wants to adopt it is because everyone else has adopted it at this point.
Course.
Pandora's box has been opened, and it is totally out of control. It really is, to the point that rules are being put in place to stop certain things, but now they're getting around certain rules. Like, it is just, as much as, like, it's not, like you said, oh, it's
modern day
terrible,
football.
It's scandalous. It's just a bit dirty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Listen, it is indicative of modern day football. That's what happens in the game. There's been corruption, like high level corruption in the game for ages, that we tried to stamp out, like right at the very top from FIFA downwards. Like, look at the things that was happening with like Seb Platter and what's the other guy got locked up with the money thing? Can't remember his name.
Platini,
Sepp Blatter, that's it. Platini. All of that. Oh my god! All of them things have been happening for absolute years. The bids that go in to host the World Cups and the Euro, all these types of things have been happening at the top level. And yes, when it comes to this multi-ownership model, it's about how acute you can be and how smart you can be to circumnavigate the rules, which is the problem with football. This is where the governing bodies need to get hold of it and enforce things properly, so that once the rule is the rule, there isn't a little cheeky way you could premeditate something, like you're saying, in 18 months' time. You look further down the line, go, actually, if we move him there, then move him there.
Well, we didn't,
basically, the rules.
We didn't break the rules, did we?
Yeah, exactly. The rules aren't foolproof, and that's the problem. Exactly that. The people who've made the rule gone, yeah, I know you didn't break the rules, but you've done it. Yeah, but mate, look at it. It doesn't say you can't do that. So
I'll put it this way. Put it this way. With Todibo, so Ineos own Luzern in Switzerland. If Todibo magically got sold to Luzern and then we bought him like a month later,
or we
naturally the pushback of that would be, but you just moved into another club, so you could end up. So there's like, there is actually ways around it, which again makes a mockery of the rule, doesn't it?
It does, but you know what, Owen?
You can't sell between clubs that are in the same competition. But if you sold him to another club that you still owned that wasn't in the competition,
then you can.
Then sold him to the other club, then you can buy him. And then the point is, but you're owned by the same people anyway, really.
Yeah.
So you can still get around it.
And they can sell him to another Premier League team, just not us. So if he wants to go to Chelsea, he can go to Chelsea. If he wants to go to Arsenal, he could go to Arsenal, because there's no invested interest. He could just go to any team. Sir Jim Ratcliffe can sell him to anywhere, just not the other club that he owns, but in Man United. But I just think that you're right, everything you say. But it's like, if we know that's what it is, it's either don't moan because you want the rules to be fair, or be smarter. Like, if we knew we wanted to get Jean-Claude Todibo, which we knew that for a while, they should have, or maybe there wasn't enough time from February to now to get him out on loan. It's a bit difficult, isn't it, really? Because the January transfer window, maybe he would have had to go somewhere else, and which ain't going to happen. Nice are pushing for Europe or whatever. He's not going to go to bloody, the relegation team in France or something. He's not going to go to Montpellier or I don't know. Just because of that, there probably wasn't enough time to circumnavigate it. Like you said, it's very premeditated, isn't it? It's very look far down the line and go, you know what? Let's look at how do we get him here and bend around the rules. With Todibo, clearly there wasn't enough time to do it. Couldn't have done it. And we just got to bite the bullet, innit?
Well, PJ in the chat says, stop being ridiculous. Nice are a team too. They aren't just giving players away. And I think, PJ, with respect, I think you're missing the point here. It's not a case of they're not going to, and Sir Jim says this later on in the interview, he's not going to sell Nice. If anything, he wants to use Nice, as he says, as a conduit to Manchester United. He's using it actually as a way to, in the future, be like, oh, we might be able to get a work permit, shall we say, to bring a player in from Manchester United, but let's get him to Nice first and send him across. And he does also say that they actually really didn't anticipate this scenario happening, because it looked for a long portion of the season anyway that Nice were going to be in the Champions League next season, because they were second for quite some time to PSG, and then they fell away really towards the end of the season. It looked for the longest time that Manchester United weren't going to be in Europe at all until the final game of the season with the FA Cup. So maybe that's why. So I don't think it's not a case of people going, "I'll get rid of Nice." It's not a case of whatever. It's a case of that was a move that clearly they had earmarked for quite some time. And in the most recent discussions with UEFA about playing in the Europa League next season, both clubs, the line that's been put across by UEFA is, by the way, this is the rule. It's only been in place for a year. You can't sell a player from that club to that club that you both own. That's it. So it's not a case of like, oh, get rid of Nice or sell Nice or don't care about Nice. It's not the case at all. I think Nice were going to probably be fairly compensated as well. That's, you know what I mean? They were going to get some money and it's all going to go into the same pot. I think that, it's just, like I said, it's more of a wider discussion about the rules, isn't it?
100%. And they need streamlining and make sure people can't go around them. But you know what? This is football, and this is what's been going on in football for a long time. Things not making sense. Big organizations and the governing bodies making decisions where we're like, well, that contradicts that. That doesn't make sense. You've said this, but now you've allowed that. They've done this, and you haven't come down on them, but you've come down on them. Like this is the world of modern day football, which stinks, to be fair. Let's get to super chats. Ryan says, Olise coming to Chelsea, Fleck. Enjoy Anthony ball. I enjoy Ahmad and Garnacho ball on the right hand side, mate. That's our right wingers, mate. Yeah, that's our right wingers. Kristen, been a member for 24 months, says, stupid rule. Surely we can sign him and not register him for Europa or sell him to Lucerne, then loan to United with obligation to buy. Well, that's what I'm saying. If we had maybe not we obviously can't buy him, just not register him for Europa, because they're saying you cannot buy him.
No,
that's it. You just can't even get to that. But selling him somewhere else and then getting him, that's what we're talking about. You have to see that further down the line. And maybe they could do that, but it's not going to happen now. Also, on the player as well, Jean-Claude Todibo wants to play football at a decent level. He's not going to say, "Oh yeah, just send me to bloody."
Well, they're saying you could theoretically you could sell him to Luzerne this summer, and then he gets loaned to Manchester United
straight away.
Because you could do that, but again, the natural pushback of that would be going, "Well, you're just bending the rules."
That's instant, But other people have done it. It depends on the type of reputation. Yeah, type of reputation they want thingy to do. The reputation that they want to have in EOS. Matimu says, it's been a member for 8 months. Big up to you. Says, get the likes up. Big up UV. Gutted about Todibo. Really wanted him in the United shirt. And on that, we've got over 1,600 people watching, which is crazy for this time. So big up. Over 300 people have liked the video. So get liking. Let's push for 1K. Let's do it. Minimum 750, but let's push for 1K. So do smash a like on the video. And yeah, gutted about Todibo, Matimu says as well. So yeah, it's not going to happen, mate. And Glenn C says, UEFA are hypocrites, considering they changed the rule to allow players on loan to play against their parent club in the Champions League. Surely that is worse. I don't know. Look, that's the thing. It hypocritical, isn't it? They change one thing. You're paying a player. Essentially, they go on loan, and then now they've changed it where they can actually play again. So basically, if we was in the Champions League last season, Jadon Sancho wouldn't have been able to play against us. And now, if he under these rules, he could have. And we're still paying him 300 grand a week, and he could have scored against us and knocked us out. It's mental. But some people say even in the Premier League or the FA, we sent a player on. Say you sent a player on loan. Say Ahmad, when we sent him on loan, if we would have drew them in the FA Cup 4th round, Ahmad wouldn't have been able to play. And some people are like, nah, let him play. Or even the Premier League, like when Conor Gallagher went to Crystal Palace, it's like, yeah, now they're playing against Chelsea. Oh, he can't play. Like,
isn't that dependent? Is that a strict? I mean, you can let me know in the chat. Is that a strict FA rule, or is that dependent on the terms of the loan agreement as well? Because there have been incidents where they do end up playing against their own club, but I don't know if that's a hard and fast rule of the Premier League, or if that's written into a loan agreement. I'm just going like, well, okay, well, you'll be ineligible to play against us.
I think it's a league-wide.
I feel like it's a loan agreement thing.
So if the clubs say that they can, then they can.
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, just but clearly most clubs say no.
No, because
why would you? Yeah. And some people are like, oh, it's terrible. He's got to a final. Let him play. What was it? Who? There was one, and it was quite. The player got far.
There have been situations like semi-finals and stuff like that. Yeah, I forget. But speaking, Flex, of regulators and what have you, because there's a lot more to get to in this Sir Jim interview. He pushed back against the Premier League and the rules about PSR spending, an upcoming football regulator. He said, we've got more accountants than we've got sporting people at Manchester United, Ratcliffe said in the interview. If you're not careful, the Premier League is going to finish up spending more time in court than it is thinking about what's good for the league. He continued by saying about Manchester United, there's room for improvement everywhere. We look at Manchester United and we will improve everything. We want to be where Real Madrid is today, but it will take time. About the Real Madrid thing, because he kind of circles back to that a lot in this interview. Actually, we'll carry on. We can circle back to it. Once again, he talks about the government regulator. This is quite a big thing too. He says, if you've got a government regulator, at the end of the day, they will regulate, and that won't be good, said Ratcliffe. The system of so-called anchoring is set to be trialled next season, which would peg spending to a factor of the lower club's revenues. That's also come under attack from Ratcliffe. He said, what would anchoring do? It would inhibit the top clubs in the Premiership. The last thing you want in the Premiership is for the top clubs in the Premiership not to be able to compete with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and PSG. His advice to the Premier League on trying to out even more rules: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, obviously, the natural pushback to that will be, well, that's something that a big club would say.
Yeah, of course.
As opposed to a smaller team, because the idea is that and this is a never-ending debate, isn't it? Really, like, because I think both sides of the argument are right on this. You've got, again, smaller teams in the Premier League who are basically like, well, let's don't just protect the big teams, allow all of us to compete. And now you get people that buy into the Premier League for, let's say, smaller teams that have got money, and they're like, well, we've got money, we should be able to spend it. Why can't we spend our money? These rules are preventing us from spending our money. And then you've also got bigger clubs now, that naturally bigger clubs like, Manchester United, revenue generating clubs that are like, well, we shouldn't be anchored by revenue of other clubs, or the smaller clubs, because we've got the biggest revenue. We should be able to spend that when it comes to FFP. What do you make of all of that? Is that just a case of fighting your own corner, really?
Again, it's the harsh realities of football. We want it to be fair somewhat, to be inclusive for all. And I do agree that looking out for the smaller clubs and allowing them to have some flexibility so that they can compete is important, because that trickles down the pyramids. So when you look at in the Championship, you look in League One, League Two, etc., the domino effect of when it doesn't go right from the top, whether it's the parachute payments to those clubs and then vice versa, it does affect them. So I think there does need to be some consideration from that from the governing bodies, for sure. And it's about that balancing act of how do you get that equality versus the harsh reality of top level football, which is huge amounts of money, big clubs who generate massive revenues, but don't persecute them. Because also, don't get it twisted, the Premier League, like he's saying there, the Premier League want the big clubs to be globally recognized. That brings more money to the Premier League. It makes the Premier League more appealing. The foreign players want to come here. That's why it's a big asset to the Premier League, that's where the most money is out of all the leagues. Like, we won't have the best teams. Like, none of our teams are better than Real Madrid and stuff like that. You can talk about City, whatever. But in terms of brands and stuff, Real Madrid, Barca, Bayern and teams like that, like they don't make the type of money that can be made in the Premier League, because their league doesn't have it. So it's very it's very, very important for the Premier League, even though they have all these PSR things. And don't get it twisted, the Premier League need the big, not even the big six, but like the big ones. So Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City have become that now. Small club, 115 charges, all that. But
Chelsea,
Chelsea got money to spend, and then you got the ones trying to get in there like Spurs and that. Bless them, But the big teams in the Premier League, right? So they need them teams to flourish, and they need them teams to be able to bring the big players in, and that's why all these TV deals and stuff like that are how they are. So, but for us, for Jim Ratcliffe, we have to be real, like. It is a self-preservation thing. It's right. You have to fight your own. The Saudis who took over Newcastle, they're saying, listen, we got these P's where we want to spend it. We want to spend it. We've put all this money in, even down to say, I don't know, the new owners at bloody Burnley. When we spent some time at Burnley and saw that these new American owners have come in and saw how much they changed.
Yeah, Bournemouth as well.
Bournemouth, new owner, Aston Villa's owners, they're putting very in wealthy. Loads. Yeah. They're very wealthy. And I was talking to Dan Bardell about it, and it's like, they're feeling the crunch where it's like, we're ready to take that next step. We've got a great manager. We just got Champions League qualification. We want to get better players. We want to up the ante, but it's like, we can't. So it's everyone's got to fight their own battle. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
And like you said, there will be clubs across Europe that will be, when they hear about Premier League clubs complaining about how much they can spend, will be like, cry me a fucking river, basically. They'll be like, you taking the piss, like, the amount of money that you can spend versus us. So yeah, I mean, that's not going to go anywhere, is it? He also talked about gardening leave. Once again, one of Manchester United's true enemies at the moment. Ratcliffe bemoaned the extensive gardening leave that is commonplace in football when personnel leave post but remain on the payroll during their notice period. Only one of Manchester United's three major hires, technical director Jason Wilcox, currently is in place. He said, quote, "We're sort of a bit handicapped in that sense. So I think we'll do a fairly good job," Ratcliffe said. "It would take 2 or 3 summer windows to get to a better place," which does line up with other reporting suggesting that when talking to Manchester United players, agents and other staff has said, look, we're going to do stuff this summer, but the finished article in terms of how efficient we are in the transfer window is not going to be this year. We're going to have some people in charge, Jason Wilcox here and Omar Barada's coming at the beginning of July. But in terms of our future vision for how good we can be in the transfer window, it's not going to be this summer. This is going to be a sort of a hybrid of all of that. Now, he also had a little bit about the coach, but it was basically the same thing he said previously. He said, quote, "The coach isn't the central issue at Manchester United. Instead, he pointed to the environment at the sporting side of the business. He said, quote, it's a sports club. It needs to be competitive. It needs a degree of intensity, but with a supportive side to it, because you are dealing with players who are relatively young. It hasn't had that type of environment historically. The key is also to look after them," he said. "Plans for a new World Club tournament are a step too far." He says the sport was in danger of overplaying footballers. You can't just keep taking more from footballers. And I am really glad, actually, he said that, because it's something that Raphael Varane spoke about quite openly last year, wasn't it? Sort of campaigning in that regard. And I know that whenever this comes up, once again, it is the Crimea River line of, these multi-millionaires are complaining because they're playing too much. But the football calendar is totally out of control. And we bemoan injuries. And look, so part of it's on our own regard because our medical department's rubbish. But it does feel like it's getting to a breaking point, doesn't it, when it comes to, again, just how many games and how many tournaments. And I know once it comes up,
extending the tournaments, more games.
Yeah. Us as fans, we're like, you watch it on TV, it's great, but it is like there does have to be a limit, doesn't there?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Even our pre-season tour this year is shorter, much shorter, because the load's a lot. The load's a lot. We just think of it from a fan perspective, like you said, want more football to watch and enjoy, but when the players are getting burnt out and the quality's down and the injuries are so high, we then start moaning that everyone's injured and, they're just breaking down. We can talk about, more old school people in the game who have been in the game at a high level will say these footballers are made out of glass, mate. Yeah, when we trained, like when Wayne Rooney was saying, when I was managing, someone comes in and says, listen, can't make him work on extra shooting and stuff. I've seen his load management on his vest thing.
Yeah,
he's had enough Wayne. He's got to get in, mate. That's unthinkable to Wayne Rooney in the era that he played in. What do you mean you've measured something that says he can't do extra? Are you crazy? Like, we used to get kicked the shit out of every single week in the best, one of the best eras of football, when the level of world-class players in Europe and in football was way higher than it is now. And you go and train, you go and do your extras. You think you could tell Cristiano Ronaldo back in 2005, 6, 7 that he couldn't do his extras and that he's done a bit much, mate. Probably gonna have to get in. You know, Apple Watch is going off. It's saying your Fitbit saying you're a bit over. Never going to happen. So the older school people will say, listen, I don't get it. But when you actually see the amount of games they do have to play, and the reasons why they're increasing as well.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask you.
You can see what it is. You know, UEFA extended. Look, it's nice when we go, oh, in the World Cup, there's going to be more teams, or in the Champions League, it's wider because now, the Champions League, even the name of it originally, it's like, you should be a champion to be in it.
That's it used to be European Cup, didn't it? It used to be just the winners of the two leagues.
Then it's slightly, all right, top 4, we'll go with that. So you can finish 4th, 50 points behind first and get in the Champions League. Then it's like, well, if you win that thing called Europa League, you could finish 12th, but if you win that Europa League, you get to be with the elite. It starts getting crazy. And now it's like not even the group format, it's just wider now. So what is it, 8 games?
8 games against all different teams, It's just
so. Look, I'm not saying we won't enjoy. Look, I'm not being a hypocrite saying like it's a disgrace. I'm not going to those games. I'm not watching them. I'm not saying that because obviously we're all going to be part of it. Our team's in the competition. We want to win.
Yeah.
But when we have to analyze why it's happening, it's not always in the name of, like they say it is, just to make football better for the spectacle. No, it's so they can have more money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like things like, say, Europa Conference League, I'm not totally against, because you see teams like, West Ham, win a European trophy, and they're like, well, we would never get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I'm not against that. But like for things like the Club World Cup, that is just, I'd love someone to sit down with Gianni Infantino and go, tell me why you're doing it. Give me the reason why you're doing it. And he danced around not saying money, but it's money. Because let's just get all of these teams from around the world and let's put a load of money.
Who cares about Man City versus Sao Paulo in the semi-final of that thing? And then Man City versus Guimarães afterwards. And no disrespect to these teams. Listen, in their respective countries, I've been to Brazil, I went to Botafogo. I saw how massive the Corinthians, like these are huge clubs.
Yeah, obviously.
But in like European football, when you've just won the Champions League, what does it mean to go to bloody play against someone from Argentina or play River Plate or something? And again, these teams are huge, but I don't get why that needs to be a thing.
It can be a way to, that's the way to integrate the Saudi Pro League on a world level, a global level, isn't it? So you can get tournaments once again where Ronaldo's playing against clubs in Europe, or Messi, if they want to get involved there, playing against, it's ways to get that in. And it's just bullshit, really. It is. And they're right.
The money's right, our clubs will play in it as well.
Of
like
course.
Ancelotti, so he was saying, "No, we're not going. It's only 20 million." Real Madrid said,
we are
from FIFA, mate.
Yeah,
we'll be there.
Exactly. And finally, in the interview that Sir Jim has done, this was quite interesting. Now, this quite actually misses off the top when he's talking about Manchester United's net spend over the last decade or so. It's a lot of money. But he said that Manchester United don't have any players that are valued at 100 million or more, said Ratcliffe, who noted that buying one superstar isn't going to solve the problem at Manchester United. Now, new regulations concerning how much clubs can spend on players, along with spending by Manchester United in previous seasons, have limited the ability of Ratcliffe to buy success in the Premier League. And I guess crucially here, once again, he says, I'm not confident that we'll solve all the problems in the first transfer window, he said. So, as we have mentioned multiple times here on this very show, temper your expectations to the extent of, we're going to do business this summer, but those sort of key critical positions that we've spoken about, they're not all going to get filled. It looks like maybe centre-back, striker, maybe a left-back, maybe that midfielder that won't get filled. Maybe you'll have to wait and see. Maybe Casemiro will stay. And it's going to take a couple of windows because it's not that we don't have the money. We just can't spend the money when it comes to the rules. Yeah. Exactly. And finally, circling back to Nice once more, people had wondered, it had actually been reported by Miguel Delaney from The Independent, if Ineos were looking to sell Nice. And categorically, Sir Jim says that's not the case. There's another complication. Ratcliffe controls French team OGC Nice, but multi-club ownership is being targeted by UEFA. Ratcliffe said he would need to put Nice into a blind trust after Manchester United qualified for the Europa League. One owner can't have control over two clubs in the same competition without some restrictions, but he has no intention of selling Nice. He does actually go on in the interview to say quite explicitly how he plans to have the relationship between Nice and Manchester United too. Essentially saying that, you know, there might be certain players that it's difficult for them, as I mentioned earlier on, to get work permits in the UK because of Brexit and what have you. They'll send them to Nice, they'll develop them at Nice, and they'll end up at Manchester United. He described Nice as a conduit to Manchester United. So it looks like Ineos don't have any intention of getting rid of Nice anytime soon. They did not anticipate them being in the same European competition this season, which has led to the problems that are currently there. But that multi-club model isn't going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, it probably could get a lot stronger. So don't be shocked if in the future you see a lot more collaboration between Nice and Manchester United.
Yeah, before we carry on that, Akash says apparently Euro has agreed to Real Madrid. Real Madrid selling Nacho. We'll look at that. And Carol J, been a member for 1 month, says football is broken. It's all about money and nothing else. The fans are the only ones who care about football, and they never get a say in anything. The people at the top just getting the money. On the Nice thing, Sir Jim. Listen, Sir Jim's not stupid as well. He's a businessman. Like, he is a businessman. We do forget that, or sometimes we can. To part with this much money and to be in the game that he's in, when again he's got a lot of money already. Of course, he's got an interest in getting a return on these things, and the business is business. There's not a lot of sentiment in business, and these are high-level billionaires. Like, they don't just do things for no reason. There's always a thought process behind it and a return. And for him to say, "Yeah, I've got no interest in selling Nice, mate." Like, yes, it can help Man United because this multi-club model is part of modern day football. There's a lot of big clubs who do it. There's a lot of examples of how it can work. There's a lot of examples of how you need to be careful so you don't get stung. But if done correctly, it really can help. But also, Nice probably makes them a bit of money as well. Not just going to sell it.
Yeah,
exactly. Know what I mean? So I just think I'm not really too concerned with things like that because I just take those things for what they are. These are high-level billionaires who I'm just not naive enough to think that every single thing that is done out of just a pure love for Man United. And I don't care if I lose 100 million just like that. I don't care. I love Man United. No, he's still a businessman, and he's parted with 1.25 billion to get into this position. So you get to have a say on how things go. But it's whether the football side of it is, and that want and care to actually understand both sides, which is okay. I love that he likes the club. He's a Man United fan, so he wants to change it. But also that understanding, which I always said with the Glazers, is like, if you want to make more money and have a successful business by making better football decisions and having the environment and fixing the problems, you'll get more. So it's if you're like Roman Abramovich always did, had all the money in the world, but his ego and how he wanted to come across, he still wanted to be successful. So he kept doing it because he wanted them to win. So I just think Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's got the best interests of both, and it seems like he's just very determined and realistic about how long it's going to take. Because we shouldn't be going, "Oh yeah, fine. This summer we
it's not going to be it's not going to be resolved. Yeah, and I think he's right to point that out. Also, Flex, we've got nearly 2,200 people watching. We're currently at 604 likes. We can easy get to 1K, maybe even higher at the moment. So if you haven't already, click that like button. We've still got so many stories to get to. Speaking of which, let's get straight into some news that came from Fabrizio Romano late last night when it came to transfer targets, Flex, with an Ajax influence. You heard this one before? Yes. Fabrizio Romano tweeted last night, Manchester United are seriously considering bringing in also a new midfielder, almost sure in case Casemiro leaves. He understands, Romano, that Mexico captain Edson Alvarez is one of the options discussed internally, appreciated by Erik ten Hag. Of course he is. It's a difficult deal as West Ham considers him a key player. But of course, he only moved to West Ham, was it last season?
Last summer,
So he's only been there for a year. I don't know how long his contract was or anything like that. But is this one, the interesting thing with this, is this one of those deals now where if this new deal gets signed with Ten Hag, new contract, new powers, less influence, and blah, 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 does that one basically go off the table quite quickly if that is the case? Because this definitely feels like a link. Maybe we didn't see as much last year. There were fringe links, wasn't there? With actually no, it's not the case. Andre Onana signed him. He used to play for Ajax. So would this be our signing that's worked with Erik ten Hag before of the summer that we've done every single season?
Of course it would. I mean, just looking at obviously we know we went there last year from Ajax. He's still got 4 years left, mate. He's got contract till 2028. He's only just gone there.
It's not
very instrumental, mate. They didn't like when he didn't play for like 5 or 6, 7 games or something like that. They didn't win a game. Like he's very instrumental to what they're doing. Lopetegui's just gone in there. Listen, football's a crazy game. If Man United put the money down and he had the chance to come to Man United and be a Erik ten Hag, not being disrespectful to West Ham, you never know. He might just go, yeah, 100% I'll do that. But West Ham, no. And what money would that be? And more to the point, exactly that. When it looks like we're trying to get away from, like you said, that transfer visa that Ten Hag has and him having control, to go and sign someone like him who was so instrumental under him, you're like, well, this isn't changing. This is doing exactly the same thing. Not that he's a bad player, by the way, because he's good. He's good.
It's one of those ones. When Romano said it last night, I just kind of rolled my eyes just for a couple of reasons, because I thought, well, one, again, it's the Ten Hag link to an ex-Ajax player. You just go, kind of, let's just move on from this. And two, like I said, when you then think about it, you go, he signed last year. He's got 4 years left on his contract. Just even if he wasn't like an ex-Ajax player, you would look at that and go, well, that's really unlikely that one's going to happen. Like,
unless we got some serious money, which we don't.
Yeah, you're buying from a Premier League club, so we know the value is then going to be high. Buying out a 4-year deal, like this, I mean, unless you got involved like a Scott McTominay in that deal, maybe that's how you could soften that. I don't know, but I'm just like, I just don't see that one happening whatsoever.
No, not at all.
And as we've spoken about, I saw you spoke about it with James from the Muppeteers yesterday. Be sure to watch it. Very good video. You both chatting once again about this idea that we just assume Casemiro is going. But, I mean, there is a real possibility that doesn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, then forget any midfield signing, let alone Alvarez.
Yeah, I think so. I can't see this happening. Of course, it makes sense in terms of Ten Hag likes him and would have him, of course. But I just I don't see that Ineos are going to go through that and try and get him out of West Ham. And West Ham, just got a new manager. They're in a decent spot. They've spent that Declan Rice money really well. They want to, go up a level now. Depends what's going to happen with Paquetá as well. What's going to happen there? So they're going to have to maybe sort him out. He's in trouble.
Well, and
so big trouble.
That's not like a Tonali out for a year. They're saying that might be the end of his career, kind of stuff.
Especially in the Premier League, I think.
Well, they're saying career. They're like literally they're saying because it's spot fixing. That's the issue. It's not necessarily the fact that he bet on games. They're saying spot fixing, and their punishment could be. I think it might be like 10-year per offence or something like that. And they're saying if he's got 4 offences or something, or however many he's been alleged to do.
He's publicly obviously refuting all of it and saying, listen, I've corroborated this, that, and the other. I don't know. I'm not getting involved in that, but he's in a very bad position for a big asset. Was so close to going to Manchester City last year. We know why he didn't go. And then look now, no one's going to touch him now, especially when he's going through this. At the very minimum, he's going to be West Ham's problem and can't play for them at the minimum. No one's going to buy him with this unless there's a ruling that he's clear. So, we'll have to wait and see, but I can't see that one happening at all.
No, I agree. I do. I think that one's quite unlikely, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Let's get into the super chat. One more here. United One says, should we start regretting not getting Nagelsmann? Listen, he's doing well with Germany. We know that. Germany are doing well. Nagelsmann's a good manager. We can't start regretting anything, really. I've got to see how it goes.
And also, we got to be careful of being a bit reactionary. He's won 2 games at the Euros that he was expected to
against
win.
Scotland
by the way,
Hungary.
Against Scotland and actually against Hungary. They did have a couple of chances. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And it looked like if he was going to go anywhere regarding club football, it was going to be Bayern Munich. I mean, he turned down Bayern Munich to stay with the German national team, didn't he? So, look, he's a very good coach, young coach. I think Bayern Munich were foolish to get rid of him in the first place because they just abandoned a really long project there, didn't they? But we shall see. We shall see what happens with him.
We shall. On to the next, because we've got a lot to get through in short space of time. Lazio, Mason Greenwood big.
Yeah, this is quite interesting, actually. This one started to develop quite quickly yesterday. Sammy Mockball from the Daily Mail broke an exclusive saying Lazio have opened talks with Manchester United over a £30 million sweep for Mason Greenwood. Other clubs, including Juventus, Napoli, and others, are expected to make their move. In addition to this, this was reported by Charlotte Dunker and Paul Joyce from The Times last night, also saying the same thing, that Lazio have submitted a £30 million bid for Mason Greenwood. Manchester United want to get about £40 million, and it's understood Lazio are likely to add performance-related add-ons to their bid. So actually, this one could be very, very close to getting done. I mean, £30 million for an opening salvo, an opening sort of volley there, and the suggestion that actually we're happy to add on some bits and pieces. You could probably end up getting to that close to that £40 million number. Obviously, depend how realistic those add-ons are. Maybe that's how they will go back and forth on it. But
yeah, as long as it's not a Ballon d'Or, if it's more about appearances and
yeah,
goals,
if it's appearances,
and
goals, and that have what have you, and maybe possibly a salon clause for Manchester United too, you know, for the future. But it looks like this one's going to get done. Looks like he's going to end up going to Italy.
Yeah, or even if it's not Italy, clearly there's going to be a lot of suitors for Mason Greenwood. There's not going to be a lack of, and I think the money that we're trying to get, 40 million, I think we'll get to that there or thereabouts. And let's be honest, that whole situation, I know that part of it's over now because he's clearly not coming back, but we just need to get that money in, let him go to where he needs to go and continue his career where he's going to do that. And all parties just move on. We need the money. Simple as that. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be any lack of suitors on in Europe for Mason Greenwood, as we're seeing. There's so many interesting teams that want him. I wouldn't be surprised if Juve come in and maybe get to the top of that list, or there's so many. You never know. AC Milan or Inter Milan can start kind of knocking. You just do not know. But he's going to have a lot of options, and he's not going to be our player anymore. Just get the money. Get it in the kitty because we need to crack on.
Well, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Well, I mean, the important thing there also is if it's not just one team that's interested, that's when you can get a bit of a bit more going on. You can drive that number up. And clearly, he, as we've said multiple times, he's earmarked as a name that Man United want to. He's a fundraiser. He's a fundraiser for United this summer. And if we're going to do some of the business that we hope to do, whether it is, Joshua Zirkzee, I mean, he's like 35 million quid. That's the money right there. Done. You don't even have to tap into your existing transfer budget. Maybe that can go towards Jared Braithwaite. Boom. So that's how important.
That's how we got to spin the plates.
Yeah, that's how important a player is. Someone like Mason Greenwood this summer in terms of fundraising. And the quicker that deal gets done, then you can focus, of course, on other player exits too. James Sanchez was a big money raiser for us this summer as well, and then possibly some other ones that maybe we haven't really thought about or considered just yet. So it's not just. We always say this, that it's not just the incomings. I know as fans, what we focus on a lot is who's going to come in, who's going to be the new player, but the outgoings are just as important. And in the same vein that we want to get the incomings done early, we also want to get the outgoings done early too. So we give ourselves much more flexibility as the window goes on if something does come up that maybe we hadn't anticipated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the earlier you get the outgoings done, the better. So you know what you've got to play with. But actually, you can spin the plates if you know you've secured a deal, or in the process of securing a deal. That means that I know that money is coming, so I can now commit to that money. Do you know what I mean? Like that, like a house chain. When you're selling a house and it's like a chain of events that need to happen.
Yeah, and you go, well, I'm gonna have this money, but I haven't got it at the moment.
So mortgage in principle. Let's do that because that's on its way. If it falls through, then I can't get in. But listen. Yeah. I'll commit to paying you 35 because we've got 40 coming in from them plus add-ons. So that's just how it works. Michael Elise, what's going on there?
Yeah, well, this was an interesting one, a bit like what happened last year. Of course, last year, the drama was, it looked like Chelsea had agreed a deal for Elise to go to Stamford Bridge. They paid a release clause, which was significantly less than the one right now. And the rumor was that, once again, Chelsea were going to trigger this release clause. Manchester United are interested, Liverpool interested, I think Bayern Munich are interested. But now it looks like Crystal Palace, once again, are going to offer a new contract to Elise. So this came from Fabrizio Romano saying an exclusive. Crystal Palace have offered a new deal to Michael Elise, higher salary and new release clause for 2025. Now, Romano says he understands despite this, Chelsea is still confident as they push to agree on personal terms. It's up to the player. Bayern and Newcastle also allowed to talk to Elise. Is there any chance that we could see last year repeat itself again? I mean, I suppose the only difference with this, is that Crystal Palace are a better entity now than they were this time last season because, of
Yeah,
course, they finished so well in the league. They got a new coach in Glasner, and maybe just the project that they might sell to him. They might say, "Look, let's just everyone just stay here for a year and let's see what
mate, he's
happens."
gone.
But do you think
He's
he's
gone, mate.
gone?
He's gone, mate. Whatever happened, like, listen, all respect to Crystal Palace and stuff, but when he's getting chased this much and he's already stayed the year before, still stay in London, probably triple his wages, probably more at Chelsea. Long contract, get involved with Cole Palmer and the new revolution. Listen, we don't know how it will go at Chelsea because you don't know what they're on, but he'll be licking his lips, mate. He can start on the right hand side. He's better than Madueke. Get Cole Palmer in the 10, Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez and Lavio when he gets behind that, and Kunku back fit again. You're starting to look at it and go, I'll tell you what, I don't know what Enzo Maresca's on, but it's got some decent stuff going on there. He'd be licking his lips. So I don't. If he signs that deal, it's down to the player. If he signs that deal, it's all good saying higher salary, but I don't think he's going to stay. So it would just be to help. Exactly. It just help Palace maybe charge more for him. Does he sign that out of loyalty to say, "Oh, listen, you guys will be really good to me. I'll sign that if you make sure you let me go," so Chelsea have to pay that. But is he going to piss off Chelsea in this moment when negotiations seem like they're going in the right way? The reports of us saying, we're not going to trigger the release clause, but we're going to look for a different way to do the deal. Is that Wan-Bissaka plus some cash? Who knows? Who knows? But I can't see us entering the chat properly for Elise. I
didn't think of it like that. I thought of it more like if he signed a new deal, that means he'd be at Palace for another year, right? New release clause, higher salary. And if he did sign a new deal at Palace, which I agree with you, I think is unlikely, but if he did sign and stay another year, then suddenly Manchester United do really enter the chat because they might go, well, at the end of next season, once we've actually addressed a couple of priorities here, suddenly we might be in for a right winger next season with this release clause. Now, I agree with you. I think that's unlikely, but you can't rule out his personality. I mean, the expectation was last year that he was going to Chelsea. Like, it was near enough done. Like, that was happening. And then it was surprising to see him sign that new deal. And then he's there with Steve Parish wearing the bucket hat and the gilet vest underneath, all that kind of stuff.
What a guy.
And everyone went, oh, that's quite surprising. And I don't know. I think that Palace are in maybe somewhat of a stronger position than they were last year. Still not a very strong one. But given the way they ended the season, given that the coach was wanted by Bayern Munich, Glasner, he's won the Europa League. He's a good coach and he's got them playing good stuff. Maybe, Steve Parish once again might just go, look, let's have a push for a year. And next season, that release clause is there. You can still go. It's not a problem.
I definitely don't doubt the intent from Steve Parish and that, how good of a businessman he is and how he runs the club. Like we were saying yesterday, like you're right, Palace are in a massive position of strength, huge position of strength. They've got like 5 assets there that are solid. Let's be honest, all of them are solid £50 million up. Easy. We know that Eze and Elise are. Gay he is, let's be honest. And Anderson is. Let's be real. And Wharton, the way he's going, being English as well.
Yeah.
Once he has another season, he only did it for half a season. Give him that whole season doing that again, he'll be 50 million plus easy, probably more.
That's what I'm saying. They might sell that project and go, actually, let's fuck it. You saw how we
1 year, see if we can get Europe. See if we can get
we might get Europe. You know what I mean? Like they could do that. And then and he's clearly very loyal to Palace, and he might have a chat with obviously his agent, might have a chat with a couple of the Palace players. You never know. He has a conversation with Eze, just goes, you know what? Let's do a year.
I don't think they'll be able to keep all of them this year. Well,
I think they would struggle. I think
they'll lose at least. Clearly, he's the most likely to go, Elise. Eze's nothing's really been going on, what we've heard in the media.
At one point, it was Spurs, wasn't it? But whether or not that happens.
Yeah, he'd be good there. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I feel like he's most likely going to go to Chelsea. And I tell you what, though, that is him on the right. Cole Palmer just tucked in there in the 10. It's pretty good, man.
Look,
it
is.
That's cooking. I ain't gonna lie. With Nicholas Jackson a little bit further on, and Kunku back in the team. All right, on the left-hand side, who knows with Mudryk, and we don't know. There's still a lot of stuff at Chelsea we don't know. I'm not saying, God, Chelsea. Yeah. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, just Elise himself linking up with Cole Palmer. I'm just thinking of that specific thing. they would do a lot of damage. But obviously, the whole rest of the team could be a total disaster because Enzo might not have a clue. Don't know.
Again, you say that, but lots of people did it last summer when they were like, Flex, you seen that midfield? They've got Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, it's best midfield in the league. And
just
then
got Lavia. Oh my god,
and you go, and you know, if anything, the one that was played down quite a lot was they got Cole Palmer from City, and I went, what? They paid like that amount of money for? You've not played that many games, and he's their best player. So
no, he's worth 100 million already.
Exactly. So, like I said, you never know with them. You never know with Chelsea. But
yeah. Amanor says, where is the reckless KG scout and Boykev? Well, he's probably scouting Brian Mbeumo, trying to work out where he actually plays. And to see what he's doing. Big up KG, that comedian. The absolute disgrace of cheat. Rang us both yesterday on some aggression, you know, coming at us and saying all this stuff. I didn't realize he called you as well, Owen. I think he called me first. You need to do this. The delegates have got in his head again. They've obviously gone back. Oh, he was saying this about you. They were saying, you know, the delegates and this, that. So he's gone, yeah. Ugh, watch this. So he's been enraged. So yeah, shout out to KG the comedian, not making much points, just shouting down my phone.
Well, look, what I'll just say, in all seriousness, is I will refrain from comment today. But it'll come.
Well, SLD says Owen and Flex need to apologize to KG. Why? I don't understand where this is coming from. I don't get this. Why do we need to apologize to KG? I don't get it. I refer to my
earlier statement. I will refrain from comment at this time, but it will come.
Oh god! Oh, we got KG. I don't know if he's live after this, but make sure you head over there. And Show says Ian Matson, a great signing for Villa. Absolute bargain. Yeah, I do agree. Crazy we're not prioritizing left back after two knee ups for Malacia and Shaw being injury prone. Well, we have been told, you know, what's his face has said it quite a few times. Romano has said priority left back United, this, that, and the other. So we will apparently be getting one. But yeah, Ian Matson. I thought he was going to stay at Dortmund, but I know the manager left and, you know, got a few issues.
Money, you know.
Yeah, money. So, but really good signing. Really, I like Ian Matson. Yeah, done really well last year. So, yes. Top player. What do we have? We've got some stuff coming up for you. We've got What the Devil.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
What the Devil, England later on today. You know, loads more coming your way. So listen, anything transfer related that's breaking, we'll also find a way to bring you that if it needs to come to you now. Can't wait till the morning as well. So loads going on. Keep getting involved in the channel. Owen, have I missed anything? Is that everything?
So we got coming up today. We got What the Devil coming up at 12 p.m. It's actually going to be live. So that's coming up at 12. So be sure to get involved with that one. And then, of course, England are playing I'll be live about just before 5 o'clock, probably like 3:45, maybe 4:30. And you can watch me get really angry about Gareth Southgate again. And that's always a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah. Terrific.
You know, Rasmus against us. Yeah. Ericsson.
Christian.
Let's see. Hopefully, Christian doesn't have too good a game. Just seeing people put in the chat there. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy a new Burnley manager?
I haven't seen. I saw that he was linked to the job previously, and he did a really good job with PSV, didn't he? Before.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Interesting. Well, good luck to Ruud wherever he goes. Obviously,
yes,
legend
indeed.
Okay, guys. Where did we get to? We got to 818 likes. Oh, we'll take that. Let's get to 850 on the way out, guys. You can do it. We'll see you very, very soon. 12 o'clock. Take care. Peace.